Hi, everyone. My name is Sabrina Ramonov, and I'm super excited to officially launch my video podcast. This is the first episode ever, and I have a very, very special guest. Her name is Shen Solon. She's the founder and CEO of LaunchLemonade.app, which is an incredible agent builder platform. You're going to hear way more about it. Shen, the audience would love to hear from you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Shen. Like Sabrina said, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I don't think I've ever seen a podcast with two Filipinos in it talking about AI. So this is quite wild, actually. But yeah, I'm Shen. I'm from the Philippines. I have been living in the UK for the past 10 years, mainly operating as a product person and digital transformation lead as well, mainly in finance and fintech. So I've worked with a lot of like building models, either credit, fraud, affordability. Yeah, that's how I got into like the world of AI, machine learning and stuff.
Yeah, and let's dig into that a bit because I never meet, other Filipino women in tech. So this is pretty incredible. Like, how did your journey in corporate kind of lead you here into doing an AI startup?
Yeah, so I worked for various types of businesses, B2B, B2C, and then I started my career actually in digital transformation, moving more like traditional marketing investments from traditional ones like events or TV, and
Mm.
then move that online. So I started building websites, managing these like CMS, CRM systems, and then I started owning these products, started delivering mobile apps, and that's how I got into product delivery. And then with that role, you kind of just like take projects on. And then in 2018, there was a chatbot project using NLP and machine learning, but no one really like. All of my stakeholders were asking me, "Is it really machine learning, though? I feel like you're training it forever and ever." It took us 6 months to, I think, maybe six
Wow.
to 12 months to train it, to build like the database, to build the knowledge base. But as soon as it went live, it improved resolution rate by 20%, and we were serving like
Wow.
7 million customers then.
Are you
And
serious? So this
yeah,
was a real AI chatbot before ChatGPT came out.
before
It
chat
took you
gpt
6 months to build it. And can you share any tools you used? Do you even recall from back then? I know it was 6 years ago, but
Yeah, it was an American company actually. I don't know if they were called eGain, and we integrated them. They basically provided us with a platform, so much like what Launch Lemonade kind of is now actually. But they provided us with a platform where we built in our knowledge base, and then kind of like the query if and thens and all of that. We white labeled it as well. So I learned a lot from that, and it took maybe a 200-person agent team to train it and like test it over that period of time. But yeah, that was my first kind of like big project
yeah.
experience using AI. There were
And
other
that's really
projects.
amazing. Yeah. It's really amazing that it went to production and had millions of people using it because right now there's a lot of discussion around is AI hype? Is it really being deployed by enterprises? But you're talking about 2018, well before ChatGPT. And yes, it was a massive undertaking, right? 200 people helping train the AI model. But once it goes into production, it sounds like the ROI was like immensely positive and well worth the effort.
It was like the team was growing. It was a regulated company that I worked for. So we were servicing a lot of vulnerable customers, like uh processing a lot of sensitive data as well.
Mhm.
That's why it was a big project. But we needed to do it. Like there was an understanding that it was something that we needed to do. And yeah, like we proved it first month of like just how high the resolution rate increased.
That's amazing. So if you were to build something similar like that today, how long do you think it would take? Is it much easier with the tools today? Like what's your opinion on how the AI landscape has transformed since then?
I've been working with this customer who has just gone live with his chatbot just by himself, no experience building a chatbot for a platform. Took him a couple of weeks to train it. Built it in 5 minutes, and then he just kind of been training and optimizing for the past couple of weeks by
Oh my
himself.
gosh, that's amazing. So 5 minutes. That's pretty incredible from like 6 months to 5 minutes, how far tooling has come, how far AI has come. And like chatbots nowadays sound way more natural than they used to. It's like I was also doing natural language processing like in the previous decade, and they were very rigid. Like if you asked something outside of its like rule set, then it would just be like, I don't know, I can't respond. And that's why
No,
it had such a bad rep, right? Chatbots kind of have like this weird bitter taste in people's mouths, but it's actually come a really long way, especially
wrong
with
way.
technology like ChatGPT to make the responses at least sound reasonable, and it can like flexibly adapt to all kinds of conversation pathways now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember how I built the CSV file for the queries and like the variation of those queries. Like you actually have to provide and spell correctly and then provide like type like variations of the typos or variations of the queries. And then you have to like have really strong guardrails as well around the
Mhm.
type of queries. It took forever to build. But then that's amount of time after ChatGPT, it's just gone crazy with it's really impressive.
So let's fast forward. So, how did you get from kind of that first foray into AI? And it sounds like it was very successful with a massive enterprise deployment. How did you get from that to starting Launch Lemonade?
So during COVID, I decided to move to a startup. They just got funded. I think it was it was their seed round. And then I was like, I really want to test this out. I want to see how far I can go in this role. And I was the first product executing hire. They had a head of product who was like growing the team. And so by being the first kind of product executing hire, I had free reins of like projects that I could take on and teams that I could manage. And then I ended up managing the growth and decisioning team. So I worked with data scientists, data analysts, data engineers. At one point, managed 30 engineers in my team, delivering just all kinds of experiments to see if these experiments would lead us to profitability. And then after that, after a couple of years doing that, when I joined, there was a wait list. And after a couple of years, 3 million users were onboarded through the growth and through our team. I was like, oh, I'll try a different startup. And then I moved to a venture studio where I managed a portfolio of startups. And that was when ChatGPT came out. And I was like, wow, you can the possibilities of building whatever you want is just like crazy. So I started a Trello board where I would just write down my ideas, and then every weekend I would invite some developer friends to hang out and see if we could do like a mini hackathon.
Oh, that's
And
smart.
then
I need
and
more
then
developer friends.
and so that kind of just happened. Like every time I meet someone who would be interested, I'd be like, let's do a hackathon, let's hang out at the apartment or find a space. And then I was doing that. I actually have 3 concurrent projects that are still going. But with Launch Lemonade, I met my co-founder in December, introduced by a common friend who said, you guys should meet, you'll build something amazing, I'm sure
That's
of
the
it.
best way to meet people, anyway. Yeah.
And then we locked ourselves in a WeWork room one day, and we just started building. And then we built our like website, like our CRM system over Christmas and New Year's, and that was it.
Oh, wow. So that was really fast then. So, yeah, for those not familiar with Launch Lemonade, can you just give it a one on one? What is it? What does it allow you to do? Who is it for? Who is it not for?
Launch Lemonade is the Canva for AI agent building or AI apps. So we were doing a competitor analysis in December and learning about the market. We found a gap amongst the non-techies or people who didn't want to lose their jobs, future proof their careers, but didn't understand what the possibilities are in AI. So the mission was to make it so easy that all they have to do is press buttons and type in natural language their idea, and it'll come to life via an
Mhm.
AI agent or AI tool or AI assistant. So there are many types of AI apps that you can build in LaunchLemonade, whether it's a chatbot, an assistant, a co-pilot, or a multi LLM agent.
Mhm.
And so we were like, let's we can't really validate this via surveys because our ICP don't know anything about AI. So we
Mm.
probably won't get any data from that. And so we were like, why don't we just build something that is like building a custom GPT? Because that was when
Mhm.
they were talking about custom GPTs then.
Oh,
But
yeah, the
then
score wasn't released yet, was it? Oh,
no,
yeah.
they weren't released yet. It was like, why don't we build that, but then market it to non-techies and just add different LLMs, every
Mhm.
weekend, and let's see. how it evolves. So now it's a language model agnostic platform. We have 16 models on the platform where customers can build their own custom tools or agents based on their needs or their ideas.
And how should people think about agents? Like you've used the word several times now, but for those not familiar with AI or ChatGPT, how should they think about using agents or developing agents?
Yeah. So before I define that, I just want to step back a little bit. In December, when we were doing a bit of market research, or like when we were trying to onboard people in, the market's understanding of AI was very focused on chatbots. Oh, like I'm gonna have a chatbot in my website. That was their that was the world's understanding of AI. And then eventually all of these like noise around agents came in, and I think that's what has disappointed the market, is because everyone
Hmm.
was talking about this autonomous thing that can do everything. And so that you have like two different applications, the chatbot and the agent, that wasn't like just wowing the market.
Mm.
And so back to your question, an agent is being defined by in different ways by different providers. So you have like the scholars who are defining this agent. Like you've got books published about this agent, this autonomous thing
Hmm.
that, for example, based on a goal or an objective, it would design its own process and actions and complete that.
Hmm.
So there's no human intervention needed. It would just be autonomous in doing
Yeah,
whatever.
that's normally how I think about agents, and like
Agents,
when you
yeah.
talk about it in a technical sense or in a research setting. But now I think Andrew Ng is pushing forward terms like agentic to kind of describe a spectrum of what agents are or agency is. And so yeah, so for just a non-techie, just kind of like a layperson, not super into the tech weeds, how should we think about agents or how to use them, or when does it make sense to use an agent versus just using ChatGPT?
That's a really great question. So I am putting a stake on how this is being defined via the platform. So how we're defining this by the platform is that you can give it a problem and design your own agentic flow using different LLMs and connect them together to see what they'll do with that problem that you've given them, and then giving them the autonomy, or you have the option for that agent to perform or solve that problem based on what they think is best and based on your design. So that is how we are defining it. You have a goal, you give it to an agent, the agent performs it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it 100% autonomous, or is there room for human intervention and feedback?
There is rooms now. Our beta for this agent didn't, like, it would just decide like, oh, I want to solve the loneliness epidemic. And how I've designed, for example, one agent which I called a co-founder would define the MVP, build the project plan, the product roadmap, and the code,
Oh,
including
wow.
the architecture. So I didn't have, so I guess the human intervention would be I would have to build it still. But now we have added the ability to interact with the agent.
Okay, awesome. And like, what are some of the major use cases that people are finding on the platform?
With the agent, as in the multi LLM agent for this specific one, we've just been in beta. So like we have a global startup who is using it, who converted in LaunchLemonade primarily for our agentic flow. And they're using it as a Delphi council for their executive team.
Hmm.
So basically they're using it as a kind of like a co-decision maker or a advisor for their executive team. So we've got that, and then we've got people building an editorial team on that agentic flow as well. So you give them an idea or topic, and then part one of the process is to create an outline. Second, the second agent or second employee, let's say, in
Mhm.
that flow would write a draft. The third would edit it. The fourth would proofread it. So they built this like editorial team
Oh,
on.
that's so cool. So it's actually like multiple different agents collaborating together to accomplish like a shared task. So the task is
Exactly.
to ultimately write a really compelling article, but someone does the research, someone drafts it, someone writes it, someone proofreads it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one use case that's also emerging. Quite a few of our creators are building that on the
And
platform.
what makes it easier to do in Launch Lemonade versus like trying to build your own open AI assistants?
If you're using the OpenAI assistant, you don't need to use their API. You don't need to have the front end. So we provide the entire thing. We provide the language model. We provide the platform where you can configure or fine tune that model in natural language, and then the front end as well. So the whole platform. Plus, you can choose other language models, and you're not restrained to ChatGPT.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, when do your users usually end up using multiple different language models? Like, what are some use cases where it's advantageous to use multiple different LLMs?
You'd be surprised of, like, we have a leaderboard. I'm gonna publish it soon actually. We have more people now using Llama. Like, I don't think we have Meta,
Really?
we have Llama as in like the interface here in the UK. So we have people using Llama, and we have the kind of like, I call them experimenters, who have been using Grok with a Q as
Mm.
well. So there is an emergence of like wanting to use different language models, and I think it's based on how we're positioning the language models as well. So on the platform, we describe what each model is good for. So Llama 3.2 is good for complex reasoning. You've got Grok, that's really fast. You've got Mytho Max, that's really good at emulating a character. And you've got another Llama that's good at creative writing. You've got Claude as well, that's good for like thought leadership stuff.
Yeah, a
So
lot of people like cloud writing. Yeah.
yeah. So we've positioned the language models in different ways. And I think the kind of like our users are experimenting. So on our leaderboard, we got Llama and Claude are like 2 and 3 after GPT.
So it sounds like there's multiple actually kind of unique value adds from your platform. So there's being able to build and orchestrate teams of agents for complex tasks. But then there's also the model routing built in. Like you're not locked into just using ChatGPT. Like personally, I use Claude 3.5 Sonnet for coding and technical types of questions. I'll use ChatGPT for other things. Llama, I'm really surprised by. Is there any particular reason you think people are starting to gravitate towards that?
In my master classes, I've been using Llama a lot for creative writing and marketing stuff, maybe primarily because of that. Interestingly, for the developers, the software developers on our platform are using Mistral, Cohere R
Mhm.
for coding. So, yeah, there's also models
That's
for them.
fascinating. So that's a big value if like you don't want to pay $20 for a subscription to each one of those. You could actually subscribe to one platform and have access to all of them and then use them, as needed or for whichever use case it makes the most sense for.
Yeah, our mission has always been very clear and dear to us, which is democratizing access to all of these amazing tech. So, yeah, that's how we've kind of like interpreted that mission.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I made a TikTok video on Launch Lemonade last week and it's done really well. I made a LinkedIn post too, and there's been a ton of interest in terms of like white labeling, custom GPTs, and things like that. Can you talk more about that use case? Is it a major use case you're focusing on, or minor, or like anything you can share around folks using your platform for that use case?
Absolutely. Since that post, we've been so busy.
Sorry about
No,
that.
we love it. Our customer service, which is me and my co-founder, have been like managing all the queries. It's been crazy in the past week after you posted that. And we already had coaches on the platform who saw the value and have experiment and started experimenting. Yeah, so it has definitely driven interest and conversions already. We must have converted like 15 after your post. Coaches and consultants are definitely seeing the value proposition of being able to build customer facing tools, but also tools that would help them be more productive.
Yeah, because I really like that use case where you can kind of teach your assistant or custom GPT your expertise and then package it as a low value, low ticket offer to complement your existing service or product. So it's not the main thing that you're probably selling, but it's a complement to your community to help reinforce whatever it is you're teaching. Maybe it's a particular framework, some kind of accountability practice, like whatever it might be. And just having that coach available 24/7, right, for your clients to get support. So maybe when you're sleeping, or like you can't scale and answer thousands of questions every day, especially if you have a big community.
Absolutely. The first ever tool that was sold on the platform was mine, and it was helping users build custom GPTs. I could coach them through building custom GPTs, and they could interact with it. I was charging like $5 a month to, and this was in
Wow.
January. This was in January. So Yeah, like there's definitely value proposition in just scaling yourself via like an AI
Hmm.
form or version of your service. And then and then it could be like a funnel to your higher ticket services. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've noticed sometimes when I download custom GPTs in the chat GPT interface, I'll see a link right to the website and the person who developed it. So in a way, it's like top of funnel lead generation by providing really useful free tools.
Absolutely, and you can even build in your knowledge base links to affiliates. Like if you're an
Mm,
affiliate, you can build in those custom GPTs your affiliate links or your Calendly link. Yeah, just whatever you can imagine linking it, adding in your knowledge
that's
base.
awesome. I particularly love that use case because I interact with a lot of coaches and consultants and people trying to build communities, as you can imagine. I'm curious how you're thinking strategically about all of the different use cases that Launch Lemonade can address. Since it is like a low code agent builder platform, it sounds more horizontal rather than vertical. Are you planning to continue kind of the horizontal strategy or go vertical on certain use cases? Like, what's your current thought on that?
This is a really good question for me because I am one of those people who evangelized product led growth when I was in product delivery. And in product led growth, like you niche down, you select an ICP. But then when we were building in this in December, it was like we can't compete against ChatGPT, whose like
Hmm.
main ICP are already technical. Like the non-techies just had no idea of what how to use AI or monetize from it. Like this is just so new for them. In January, I said this isn't wise for us to niche down because we're gonna have to sell hard to this specific ICP. And what if actually we've missed like this is
Mm,
totally the wrong ICP? And we were able to release a MVP without doing hard market research. So we were like, why don't we just post a lot on Twitter or post a lot on LinkedIn and see who emerges as the ICP? We have
yeah.
the runway, we have the capacity. So why don't we just do this wild experiment of not niching down and
Like, just
then
broadcast and see who's naturally attracted to the value
exact
prop. Gotcha.
exactly. It was cheap for us too. And like we were just waiting for the inbound, which we kind of enjoyed for a while. But then now we are actually considering niching down based on the people that we are attracting. We're still allowing the market to dictate that, but
Mhm.
there are some very clear ICPs emerging already. So that's how we're optimizing.
Yeah.
As I call, this is our phase two now of the MVP.
That's awesome, and it's been, like, such a amazing joy to just watch your journey and watch it evolve. I'm personally a huge advocate of low-code builder platforms. Like, even though I have a technical background, I did a whole YouTube series on AI coding, but I love platforms like Bubble.io, Softer, Airtable, Make.com, Pipedream, because you can really do so much
So
without
much.
any prior coding experience, and it abstracts away a lot of, like, the kind of gross plumbing and infrastructure that you'd normally spend a lot of time like fiddling around with. It's not necessarily fun or productive. And so I'm a big fan of low code agent platforms, big fan of Launch Lemonade, obviously. Do you have any advice for folks out there who also want to follow your path and do an AI startup one day?
Keep it cheap and build fast. Like I think this is the value proposition of 5 years ago when people were wanting to launch startups. They had funding, and it was easier to build sophisticated tech. It was build versus buy, and you wanted to have like a we need to build a scalable product, but the no code low code platforms are now scalable. Like their infrastructure can hold a lot. It's not perfect, like sure, it's better to build your own, but it's going to take you a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of people to build on this technology. If you understand kind of like the whole idea around MVPs and just validating it, validate it cheap. I think that's definitely my advice.
And yeah, let's talk about being like Filipino woman in tech. Like how's it been with your startup journey? I'm also happy to share, some of my perspective as well. So
I'd love to hear that actually. I think yeah, your persona is admirable. Like I'm so excited to learn more about the Filipino women, like looking at you and say, "Oh my god, this is amazing." But my journey, and I still have this personality of just wanting to prove others wrong.
mm,
And and like I've had many experiences where I felt like I was discriminated or someone thought, people thought that I couldn't do certain things, and I had this like anger and passion in me. Just like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna
The
prove
chip on your
people.
shoulder. You know, a lot of amazing entrepreneurs have that chip on your shoulder that drives them. So,
I have it. Like I I definitely have it. I've always had it. And I guess that's how I got here really. You know, like I've been rejected many times in different forms. I've been told I was awful, like as in like from a performance perspective. Someone grew a former manager many years ago drew this graph and said, great managers are here. Great executives are here. You're down here. And
what?
this was like, she wrote this in a notebook and she literally drew a circle outside of the notebook. And I was just like,
That
I
doesn't
was
seem
like,
like helpful, constructive feedback.
no, absolutely not. I was like, what am I going to do with that? Uh, but so, and I guess, you know, as a woman as well, you've got all these variables, right? And they're true, they're very valid variables. Like no matter what other people say of like, you just have to believe in yourself, blah blah blah, there are variables that you have to live with and navigate around
Mhm.
with. Like I also feel like I can't say it's been difficult because I feel like I've been lucky as well, but
Mhm.
it is, you know, like it is, it's a journey.
Yeah, I mean, you echoed a lot of the things I feel as well. Like there are obviously obstacles being a woman of color, trying to compete in a technical field, which is predominantly does not look like you, act like you, or think like you. But at the same time, it's hard to complain because I also feel very grateful. So I went to UC Berkeley, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area. That's number one, just being in the hotbed for innovation. Number two, the year I graduated, 2013, it was a great time for startups, for fundraising. AI wasn't the buzzword yet. It was big data back then, and then it became machine learning and then deep learning and now generative AI. But it was an amazing place to be and like to witness all of that unfold. That's why it's hard for me to focus on all the negatives. Like I just don't, you know, maybe it is a coping mechanism, a defense mechanism, but on the other hand, I'm like there's so many things that also went right for me to get to where I am today. And yeah, I hope, you know, that we're able to inspire other Filipino women in particular, because I don't see many, I don't know many who are entrepreneurs. And so it's like super rare to have two AI Filipino women on a podcast. So
So rare. I think this is gonna be, I would say this is the first ever
in history,
in
possibly.
history.
That's
I have a
amazing.
question for you actually. Did you ever feel like you couldn't be fully yourself, or there were expectations of who you should be in the workplace versus like,
Oh, all the time. It wasn't until really maybe 3 months ago, about 3 months into my creator journey, that I finally figured out my own voice and also felt free to just be myself. Even when I started creating content, like I wasn't in mid-April, I wasn't attached to any company. Like in theory, I shouldn't care. I'm outside of Silicon Valley. Like in theory, I shouldn't care about any of these things. But when I went on TikTok, when I went on Instagram, when I went on LinkedIn, people are very polished and like that's the appearance. And like I just knew I don't want to have to keep up with that, because I've also heard from many creators they feel like this pressure, they can't quite be themselves because they've built up their image in a certain way. And I just knew for myself I didn't want to be like that. So for example, I don't wear makeup. I don't really dress up. You know, this is my hiking gear. It's pretty much what I wear all the time. And honestly, I just hope to be a role model for other young women like I wish I had. And so people will bash me for this, but I loved season one of The Kardashians because back then it was like The Kardashians and like one other TV show. There just weren't many women who even like looked like me doing anything remotely looking like starting a business. Like that wasn't even the reality on TV then. And I craved seeing more of that, you know? So I was a fan of the Kardashians season one before they became a big thing, before it became like ridiculous.
yeah, I I I was, maybe I'm a little bit older than you, but Paris Hilton, who was like this businesswoman, she was a bit ditzy. I was like, I loved her. That, so I definitely resonate with that sentiment. And there weren't just many representatives of like people who were themselves, but didn't give, you know, a damn.
Yeah. Another thing that's helped me is like reframing my perspective for social media. Like it's okay to make mistakes because I'm not trying to be an investigative journalist. For example, on TikTok, I just treat it as I just share the things that I think are cool and exciting. And sometimes I also will be wrong because I just started playing around with something. And then I realized, oh, can't actually do XYZ, like it said on the website. So I just go into it with that perspective, just sharing what I think is cool and interesting at the time. So for example, like I made a post about 11 Labs' free reader app, and it was 100% free at the time. And they said, this is 100% free. And then obviously, like 3 months later, they paywall it and people will comment, hey, this isn't free, this is a lie. And I'm like, it was actually free at the time I filmed the video, But yeah,
That
I try not to get too hung up on it.
No, that's really good advice, and still is in many ways. I've got a lot of inhibitions around the things that I say. Like, you want to fact check everything, you want to validate before you say anything, but things are evolving so quickly. So I'm actually gonna take that advice.
Yeah, and another trick is to just talk about the things you've done or like recently tried. So like the other day I was playing with Flux and Kling for image generation and animation. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make a video about this because I just did it, you know. And so that's been another way for me to like be able to easily make a lot of content because I'm just doing AI stuff all the time. Like just like I imagine with you at Launch Lemonade, you guys are building stuff, you're talking to customers,
Yeah,
you're helping customers, achieve success with AI. And like it's easier to talk about that because you're in it, you live it every day.
absolutely. I did after I saw your video. So we have Flux in Launch Lemonade that you can custom build as well. So it's consistent in what the type of images that it builds. And then I used Runaway to do the video. And then I used UDO for music.
Oh, for music?
Yeah. And sweet.
Wait, so you can make a music video and launch Lemonade?
Well, we don't have UDO, so you need the
Oh, you need
yeah,
the UDO. Feature request.
feature request. But yeah,
Cool. So yeah, as we wrap up here, is there anything else you want the audience to know about LaunchLemonade.app or about learning AI and ChatGPT more generally?
absolutely. Well, you can follow my TikTok channel, Shen and AI. We also do weekly free master classes. You can find us on Luma at Launch Lemonade Team, where we just basically do a 30-minute co-building session and show you how to build your custom AI tools or agents. And then I also have events around London. I'm speaking at Web Summit. So there's a lot of free stuff happening. They're all recorded. And yeah, just follow me on TikTok, LinkedIn, and whatever channel you're in, really.
All right, yeah. So on YouTube, you guys will see all of the links to launchlemonade.app. It'll be in the video description. So go there, especially for the free masterclasses every week where you get help building out your own custom GPTs. That sounds super valuable. And did I hear you right that it's free?
Master classes are free. That's
Oh
right.
my gosh, I need to make a TikTok video on this. I love free stuff.
They're all free. We've been doing it for the past 4 months now.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me for my very first podcast ever. Thank you so much for joining me, Shen Solon, and hope you guys enjoyed this.